Okay, so Peter over at Tool Time just posted up a video. It's kind of continuation of this discussion we've been having about cell phones and book culture and new technologies and stuff like that. But the video is called A Cynical Look at Dumb Phones, and please check that video out. It's a good length video. It must be almost 20 minutes or so. So there's a lot that's going on there. One of the main ideas that I think he hits upon is this. Well, again, there's so much that's going on, but one of them anyway is the degree to which people have an over fetishized um, sense of what they're able to do with their cell phones, and they seem not to realize the degree to which the cell phone is always really lagging behind the computer, and that the computer is always going to be a kind of center compared to the little periphery unit that has. And I think that's true. I guess I wanted to get at that for a while. Okay, I think that's true, but by prospects of Moore's law, it doesn't matter that it increasingly is diminishing returns, because the exponential growth rate is enough to still justify it. That people will say, well, sure, my cell phone is only 1/10 of the power of my computer, but right now my computer is 3,000 times more powerful than it was just 2 years ago. And so they say, well, yeah, so by that prospect, my cell phone is still super more powerful than my computer was just 2 years ago. So see, some of those I guess get to be a little bit of a problem. But I think the logic that you're after is, I guess I would say, from my perspective anyway, I think it's very right that there's always something like centralization of knowledge, and then the way that knowledge gets distributed or accessed. And it could be tribal life, and the tribe as a collective roughly holds the knowledge, and you as an individual go to the collective and you seek the wisdom that is collectively contained across multiple people. And knowledge is just largely understood as more than what you could personally know, although everything that's known is known by someone. When you add up all the kinds of knowledge that is there, especially as knowledge gets generated in group discussion, it's very complicated to say what is the knowledge that's held, because the kinds of questions that we have, they generate new forms of knowledge as much as they disclose knowledge previously held. And so, that same phenomena then could be said about the library. The library is the centralized unit that then people then go get a book from, and they take it from there. And I think your Star Trek example and the tricorder, it's a very good example. I guess part of the concern though is that there is a kind of desire to externalize the brain and give, or the mind, give consciousness a grounding outside of itself, so that inner resources could be spent doing other things, and you don't have to tax yourself out by memorizing lists of things and your own memory of trying to recall what people look like. Instead, now you just here you show a photo of someone on a phone. I guess it even changes how we think about the past. We now experience events as events to be recorded. So I think there's so many aspects of the cell phone that are really interesting, like in that sense, that I think the cell phone has become a screen that slides in between people, and they now experience the present as an already recorded moment of the past. And it's as if they've been alienated by the other's appropriation of it, that is the moment that they whip out their phone and start to record it. So if you're at some event or some activity, live performance of something, and some person, instead of rather being there and hanging out, they'll pull out their phone and they start to record the event. Now, in some sense, yeah, they're trying to capture that, but to the traditional experience of that recording of it is a very alienating experience. Not only does it pop you out of it in some way because you're worried about getting an camera angle that will be good and all this kind of other stuff, but you're already thinking about other people who aren't there enjoying it. In other words, you yourself are not enjoying it. You're not lost in the enjoyment of it. You're somehow with other people kind of appropriating your experience through your spontaneous use of the phone. And you know, there's different aspects of that, I think, throughout. You know, the phone itself has, I guess, various. There's all kinds of other dynamics. Let's take another one, which is, okay, when I was teaching, geez, maybe just 10 years ago, not that long ago. I mean, I've been teaching now for about, oh God, 20 years. You know, I've been teaching college for a long time, and I guess students were more eager to come and talk with you, to hang out with you, and then I guess as the cell phone came in, increasingly students would, well, I'm sorry, as the computer came in, increasingly students would send emails rather than come to see you. Now they almost don't even want to send email. There's a tendency for them to only text on their phone because they see as an email as overly formal, and they send texts, and to that extent they never come and talk at all. So there's a real reintroduction of hierarchical mystery as young people become more and more reliant upon text. And by that I mean the texting phenomena. See, I think it's kind of like, you know, when we were younger, if say you'd see someone on campus or you see someone in a busy street and you could tell they wanted to have an interaction with you, but you really didn't want to have one with them, you might, like, you know, pull out a watch and kind of get a real purposeful look and, you know, grab your briefcase and, you know, look at your watch and kind of, you know, walk purposefully ahead, and that way they get the clue that, you know, you got a meeting, it's not them, you know, pressing engagement, you're going forward. But I think today it's like the cell phone has become that it's this kind of displaced other. You know, people will pull out a phone and they're like dislocated from the present engagement. So if they're walking somewhere and they don't want to have to bump into someone, interact with someone, they kind of want to brush someone off without hurting their feelings, they pull out the phone and they kind of make it seem like they have a call or something important that needs addressed. Maybe they'll react in a sort of overly animated way. I think there are other ways too that this is going on. That sometimes a person, and it depends on how you do it. Like, you know, sometimes if you were talking with someone and they would pull out a phone and then they would take a call in front of you, it would seem like, what the hell, you know, this was really rude, especially as cell phones first emerged. I remember, you know, there's so much scholarly work on, you know, what kind of rude interruption in interpersonal interaction was going on with the spontaneous taking of a phone call. But then as texting emerged, texting seemed, at least to young people, it seemed less rude. So the people are there, and now, like, instead of some person pulling out the phone and taking a call, they sneak out the phone and somewhat, you know, letting the person know, but also being somewhat quick and private. They just look down and they give a little text response and they slide it back in their pocket. And so it's become much more discreet. Now, is that more polite? Is it more interruptive? I think the more that we think about it, you know, what is it doing? What is it not doing? I think those are fine, but to really try to get at how it's changing us, how it's changing what we think of as an interaction, what we think of as being knowledgeable, as being courteous, as being with someone. You know, people are out on a date and they will give status reports and updates to their friends on how the date's going before either of them have got home from the date. See, I think there's an irony when you start to get to what extent do the kinds of communication technologies, can they just describe what's going on? Can they just refer to what's going on? Or is the description and the reference partly making it what it is? That is, aren't there ways in which our modes of understanding the process actually change the process? They affect the process. I mean, I think we sometimes think of Heisenberg and some of these observer dynamics in physics as solely applying in physics, but in the area of communication, in the area of language, thought, uh, those are where you really see it. That there may well be a kind of thought independent of language, but you just can't say what it is. And whether you call it language or spirit or Geist, that changes what you mean ultimately by that phenomena. See, I think there's lots of ways, sometimes called the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, but it's been phrased a lot of different ways. Okay, I think the last thing I want to get at in that video, well, there's so much there. I too, I feel like there's a lot that we could talk about there, Peter. I think one is the concern over serving of a too immediate self. I think the promise of the cell phone is that you as a person, you're already done. You're grown and developed and your capacities are fine. All you need is access to the latest information. You just need access. And I did recently see a commercial. It was I don't know, it was a major store. I'm not sure what store it was, but it had children walking around with portable faxes and sophisticated office machinery, and as if this young children, I don't know, they're 5 or 6, 7 years old, and they were running a corporation. And it was weird that the ad, the marketing platform, you could tell, was trying to make old people feel as if, boy, they're really outdated, and younger people who have a better command over these technologies are soon going to be putting you out of business. Now, it didn't have it that way, but that was the subtle subtext of it. And yet I think the more obvious text is, look, young people, there's nothing stopping you. All you need is the technology, and this will make it happen for you. And okay, there's a mixed story there. Can people be greatly capacitated by technologies? Can the right people who already have goals, have motivations, are up to something? Yes, 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 yes. But those technologies in the hand of a lay around who really isn't up to anything, who's comfortably indifferent, it's not going to do anything. It's going to do very little. The more, though, that people think that they themselves are done, and the problem is that they don't have access, I think that's potentially very deadly. A book, especially a very difficult book, you go grab Sartre's Being and Nothingness, or you're going to go tackle Simmel's Philosophy of Money, you're going to have to bring expedition gear. You're going to have to bring little sandwiches. It's going to take you some work to make it through that, and the struggle and the growth and the kinds of resistance and just natural resistance that's there enables for a growth and development of the person that's an interiorization of knowledge, a kind of wisdom that, and I don't mean the wisdom as the acquired information, I mean a wisdom about the growth of the individual that comes from meeting resistances and tackling, responsibilities and all this kind of stuff. But the seduction of that all I need is access. See, that's a problem, because if you can access it but can't understand it, what was the point of being able to access it? And if you can access it but can't understand it, and then more accessible information is only one click away, the seduction becomes ever more present. Right? I mean, this is the Wikipedia mind. If you look at Nicholas Carr's stuff on the shallows, this is the way that people are when they're selling themselves short, because when they confront a genuine, difficult intellectual challenge, a difficult reading, something that's going to take time. You're going to have to write some notes, maybe write the argument out yourself, sort of test it, maybe come up with some examples for yourself to see if it works or not. That kind of stuff is diminishing as people think that if they don't understand it, the information is just, it's not understandable, it was badly constructed, or there's more easily accessible, more digestible information just one click away. And those are seductions. It's not to say that, again, not to be overly Luddite. I think there are real strengths and merits, and it will be for those people who do it, in all ways. But people who don't have, I think, a grounding in I think the larger world from which technologies emerge and to which they'll always return, they easily become displaced, and they're chasing a kind of phantom around. Okay, so thanks.